Welcome back to Comics Experiment, the show that airs right here at the Comicstorian Podcast Network, twitch.tv/Comicstorian, every Tuesday and Thursday. Today's topic is going to be, should DC be resetting? But if you want to watch older episodes or watch this live, once again, go to twitch.tv/Comicstorian on Thursdays at about 3 p.m. Eastern. You can also catch it on Spotify under Comics Experiment, and you can catch it right here live in the Comicstorian channel on Saturdays. The holiday is over, we have returned, and we have like 2 topics already pre-prepped. We are ready for the new year.
Yeah.
We got 2 episodes worth of
365 days, we got 2 topics. We're golden.
But today's episode is brought to you by a bunch of sponsors. Dan, start.
All right, first up, we're brought to you by HelloFresh, where you can go to hellofresh.com/experiment16 and use code experiment16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. It's also brought to you by our Patreons at patreon.com/Comicstorian, our Twitch subscribers at twitch.tv/Comicstorian, those of you that use code COMICS at checkout when you buy your G Fuel, where you can save 10 to 30% off depending on the sale that is currently going on. We're also brought to you by our other channels, such as Dungeons and Ale, where we do different D&D things and drink alcohol. It's fantastic.
It's Dan's favorite new project.
It is. It actually is, very much so.
If you could all go to that, that'd be great. We really want that to succeed so we can just stop doing this.
Can I start a craft brewery / BDSM club and call it Dungeons and Ale?
It's okay.
Can I? Is that like a copyright thing? Like, will you try to sue me?
No, you know,
Okay.
I think
Just do it with Dungeons.
I think it's on brand.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, we started that.
Welcome to our new campaign, Ale and BDSM.
It split off from a podcast we did.
We're just gonna do like
It
a
all
human
came out of
centipede.
some sexy growling.
We're gonna do a human
walls.
centipede campaign for team building.
Team building. Dibs on being in the front. Dibs on being in the front.
You know, if that's dibs, then not the middle.
Well, I mean, you'd want to be the
Yeah,
middle.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
gonna
What
say,
part
I
of the
don't
human
know what
centipede would you want?
to be the back?
Yeah, I was gonna. Well, you don't want to be. I mean, to be fair,
You
you
either
only want to be the
first or
first.
second at minimum. First, obviously. First is the best.
Do you know they did a sequel to that? It was 100 people.
I never saw the first one.
The second one was the human millipede.
That's wrong.
And the 4th one is we skipped 3 and we don't know what we're doing anymore. Sew people together.
The human Ouroboros.
Oh God. Yeah.
There's no winners
There's
there.
no
I loved
winners
the
there.
South Park joke on that, where there was it like the
A
eye
human iPad or a
the human
Sentai pad.
Sentai pad.
It still doesn't know how to read.
All right, so
What are we talking about?
I
that's
don't know.
that may take the cake as our craziest tangent we've ever gone
Hey,
on.
listen, my club idea is genius.
I
Anyway.
hope.
Dan can't even get back on the show. He's just out. It's like, I'm done.
All right, so let's cancel DC. That's the topic, right?
Yeah, so, okay. To set this one up, the question is, should DC have another crisis? Traditionally, DC has had some form of a crisis every 5 to 8 years. That's not about accurate, Andy?
Sure.
Because they had the first one, then they came back later with like 0 year, then we had the second
Yeah.
crisis. There's been something. And what a
It's a
crisis...
shorter amount of time than 5
5 to 8,
years.
because they do change it around, but it's
Okay.
5 is normally when you'll start to see one popping up, be it
Because
actually
I feel
happening.
like since I've read, it's been
They
like
call that
every,
the
like,
midlife
3
crisis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, see, this is the problem. This is what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
Technically, there hasn't been a crisis since 2011, an actual crisis. Yeah.
I'm glad that
Unless
we're
you
talking
count
about this then, because I have
heroes in
different
Right.
thoughts
So
of what I thought was a crisis.
basically, what a crisis is, and this is where Marvel and DC have always been back and forth. Marvel has always had the rolling timeline, so that no matter what, the characters are the age we need them to be. DC used to have the crisis situation where we would tell stories in a time span of 5 to 8 years or so. Something earth-shattering would happen and mildly reset DC. It would allow them to tell a new Flash story, or in this universe, we brought back someone from the dead, or over here, Batman didn't work with them for so long. And we had Infinite Crisis where they merged all the universes, brought in characters. We had Crisis on Infinite Earths where they killed characters and consolidated things, and they just use it to clean up continuity errors.
But they don't.
Right.
That's the best part.
Yeah.
Clean up.
Yeah.
Except the ones that they liked. Those stay.
Well, that's the 2011 one. We'll talk about that in a minute. So what usually happens in comic books is you get 30 books a week, multiple writers, multiple people want to do things. Continuity just gets messy as time goes on, which is where we are right now. And that's why a crisis has always been kind of important. Some fans hate it because you get really invested in something that's happening, and then they throw it out. Remember when Aquaman had a hook for a hand?
Yeah, 90s.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Like people get invested in that version of the
Like a
character.
blonde version
Or
of Momoa.
I think one of the best examples is Wally West was the Flash until New 52.
Right.
And Jeff Johns liked Barry Allen, so he brought him back.
Yeah.
And that changed all that. That people were mad about that one. But they're traditionally used to clean up continuity. The most famous of them has been the New 52. You can argue if you want to, but
famous.
I was gonna say it made it national headlines, and it was the big reboot of DC.
Reboot.
And we haven't had a true crisis since then. The New 52 kind of got a little out of control. We did Rebirth, which wasn't a real crisis because that was in story. Like they kept the New 52 in continuity and corrected the timeline.
Corrected.
Well, because that one was the one that did have basically a midlife crisis with convergence.
Yeah.
Okay. Just
So,
making sure
and then
well, Convergence wasn't even truly a crisis either. That was an actual
that was
crisis.
an event.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm gonna need a definition.
Rebirth was with the button.
So after Infinite Crisis,
and
after
Doomsday
Crisis on Infinite Earths,
Yeah, I remember
after
that.
Zero.
Even though that wasn't in continuity.
This is the point of today's episode. That's
Yeah.
how confusing it is. Because it used to be Crisis on Infinite Earths. After that, new continuity where we
Right.
clean things up.
Until we name something crisis. Something.
Heroes in Crisis.
Well, then they would do the fake crisis where they would do like 0 year was a crisis, where they would reset a lot of things.
Interesting. I didn't know.
So they would do that kind of a thing. New 52 was the last big one. Rebirth course corrected stuff, but it wasn't a crisis. They didn't reset. Then the rumors were going around that death metal was going to be a crisis. And in the opinion of a comic fan who's been reading for many, many years, that really was a crisis. Like
Yeah, generally, yeah.
we
Like the
kind
whole
of reset everything.
evil god Batman was throwing planets around.
and good God, Wonder Woman caught them.
Yeah.
Stop throwing him, guys. I gotta put him back.
Yeah. That event got crazy.
But instead of it being a true crisis with a fresh start afterwards, where we kind of, because normally after a crisis, they pseudo reintroduce everyone. So it's a
Yeah.
jumping on point. We didn't get that. It was just like, all right, well, we're back to normal.
And everybody remembers the gods throwing the planets around, right? Well, sort of. Should we talk about it? Nah, let's go back to fighting crime in Gotham City.
And since death metal got stretched out and 5G got thrown out the window, it has felt weird in DC. Like there's no, at least in my opinion, I haven't felt true interconnectivity outside of what Joshua Williamson is doing. And until recently, he really only had control of like one portion of everything. Because like he was doing Infinite Frontier and he was doing the Robin stuff. Now he has Batman. He's kind of gaining control and can kind of course correct a lot of it. But he didn't have enough hands and enough pots to figure it all out. He was trying to do a multiversal story without a true crisis, but also remember death metal and New 52 happened and Rebirth happened. And so the question of today is, are they due for a true restart? And then we'll go to Marvel after the commercial break. But for DC, are they due for a true, a fresh start? We issue one everyone. We get their origins again. We see the pearls roll.
But everybody gets them this time.
Those are
Flash
Thomas's pearls.
Flash was wearing pearls. Jor-El and Lara were wearing pearls. Aquaman's dad?
Is his mom? I don't know who's alive right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to remember
It's
in
like
the original.
they found pearls. Like,
Yeah,
can we
yeah.
count
There's
that?
like oysters.
Yeah, they were in the
Or
water.
clams or whatever pearls come from.
So I want to get Andy's opinion
Shells.
first because you're the newer reader. So I want to go to you. And
Yes.
it's funny because our reader who started reading 8 years ago is the newer reader.
During a crisis.
What do you think, Andy? Because you've been
Yes.
reading DC since before me. You started reading comics before I really got into them.
They helped me learn to read.
For me, it was video games.
Ben didn't learn
JRPGs.
to read until he was like 18. And they were like, you probably should pick this up by
JRPGs
now.
taught me with mistranslations. That's why I
All
can't
your
talk
base
right.
belong to us. I don't think that was an RPG. But anyway, I've maintained for a while now they need to do a flat reboot.
Just start over.
Just start
New
over.
52
Call
again,
it a crisis
but with
if
a
you
plan.
want to. Yeah, New 52 with a plan. I think we had an episode where I talked about this. Where I
Yeah.
was like, that was their problem. They didn't have a plan. So yeah, I really do think there's just too much going on right now. And every time they try to correct it, and I like using air quotes, they don't. And they always do it in the most convoluted friggin' way possible.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody didn't like the new 52 stuff, or even though it sold really well, but not everybody liked all the changes. So let's do Dr. Manhattan came from, it's going to be simple. We're going to simply clean everything up. All right, so Dr. Manhattan came from another universe and decided he was going to mess with stuff. And then we're going to do that book, but it's not going to technically be in canon. But the button part was.
Yeah, well, and that's the problem with where we are now. They just started removing things, making it Black Label, out of continuity.
Yeah, it's just like
But they reference things that were in
overcomplicate
continuity.
The crap out of it. They
Three
just-
Jokers is another one like that.
Exactly. Exactly. Where parts of it are in canon, but other parts, not so much. They really just need to hit a wall. We'll call it a crisis, all right? But the universe will actually end.
Yeah.
For once. Nobody gets to save it. Superboy doesn't get to punch anyone back into existence. You end the universe. Call it good. That's it. That's her app.
Right.
Whoops. And then we'll just start over.
Well, and you brought up two good points.
I always do.
The Doomsday Clock situation and then the Three Jokers. They've done, because of Black Label and everything that's happened with the higher-ups at DC, Warner Brothers, and AT&T, half the stuff isn't even, is it continuity? We don't even know right now because they're just mass-producing things that say Batman.
Right.
And the confusing part of that
They
is...
should have called it Bat Label.
The confusing part of it is...
That would be great. A bat label?
They should just do that, but...
That'd be fantastic. I'd
The
read.
confusing part about the whole thing is, like, half the books are in continuity, but this half aren't in continuity. Harley Quinn is a part of Fear State when she's in Fear State, but her Fear State tie-ins, she's not a part of Fear State and doing her own out-of-continuity stuff. Like,
What's the problem?
It's...
And if you don't like it, you're a bigot.
Yeah.
I don't know what that has to do with anything, but... I don't know if it's obvious there's communication issues in DC, I think, in terms of like writers to editors to higher ups or whoever. I really do think that, and a lot of people would hate it because, but I was really into this 4-year period that's not part of continuity anymore. But if they did a flat reboot, they could then pick and choose stuff that worked throughout the whole history of DC and reintroduce them.
Yeah.
And tell them in a new way. You can make some slight changes, which is kind of what they did with the New 52, but they just didn't commit to the idea of the reboot. That was the problem.
Well, the problem with the New 52, the biggest issue was if it was selling well, they kept it.
Right.
So they kept Batman, Green Lantern, and a couple other weird things.
Yeah.
And that's what made New 52 confusing, because then they would be like, so everything that happened to Batman happened in 4 years.
Yeah, it was a rough 4 years.
Everything that happened to
he's
Green
gone
Lantern?
through 5 Robins, had his back broken. Although technically they didn't have Azrael.
Yeah, they removed him.
That they did remove because then they reintroduced him as his own thing. It was a rough 4 years.
Well, the same thing.
I don't think I'd be a superhero anymore.
It was the
Like,
same
you
thing
know
with the
what?
Green
I'm gonna
Lantern.
call
It was.
I'm retiring.
It was like they practically were like, yeah, everything that happened to Green Lantern in the last 10 years happened last week. It's like all of the new rings, all the new Spectrum.
What happened was Abin crash landed. Hal got his ring. That was day 1. All right, day 2 we introduced
Sinestro War.
Sinestro War. Day 3 Black Lanterns. Day 4 everybody gets a rest.
White lanterns.
Day 5 White Lanterns.
Day 6 First Lantern.
Yep.
Day 7 we done. Now we're here.
And then Hal goes and fights God. On the 8th day, Hal punched him in the face.
We put that video out today, the short for God
Yeah,
versus Green
yeah,
Lantern.
yeah.
My favorite comment came through. I knew we were going to get some like just religious comments. Someone posted.
Even though he's not technically supposed to be God.
No, he's not.
No, he's a galactic hipster.
Yeah, pretty much.
So for those who don't know, the concept of this storyline, if you didn't watch our short yet, is that God shows up supposedly and saves the planet. We all find out he's an alien who wants to eat the planet after he powers them up. Okay.
Which makes a lot of sense.
So somebody put down a Bible quote about repent your sins and praise the Lord and that kind of a thing. And the follow-up comment was, were you not paying attention? He's going to eat us.
Repent, for the Lord is hungry.
I was just like, wow.
It tastes good with some barbecue sauce.
Oh my God.
That would be kind of funny if we found out that for real God was just
He does show up.
just shows up and is like, yeah, I'm going to eat you guys.
Real God's He's eating us.
Oh my God, he's opening his mouth.
No religion saw this coming.
Seriously, not one. No one called it.
There's some guy with a tinfoil hat. I called it.
All right, Bob over there got it.
So
Yes.
back to the topic on hand.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
The reboots.
So God shows up, eats the planet. Reboot.
I honestly don't know why we didn't take death metal and then they just took that as the new fresh start in DC. Because they didn't even restart a lot of the books. Like Flash is on like 77.
Yeah, no,
Nightwing's
they
back in
didn't- yeah, they didn't do
89.
Any real reboot other than, and not even Wonder Woman because she went to Valhalla
Is she back
Yeah.
yet?
and
Yes, she's
then came back as like normal Wonder Woman. That was like
Yeah, she's
a
like,
month and a half.
I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
gonna
now
fight
there's three
Cisco
of you.
Again.
You guys like that Yara
what they
Flora,
call
right? She's still got a comic, right? Yara Flora?
Yep,
I stopped
Wonder Girl.
reading it like after she was having arguments with her horse.
That's what the best part.
Jared.
Well, no, let
Jerry.
me rephrase that. That made it sound like I didn't like it. That's where
Yeah,
I
I was
remember
gonna
reading
say
up
that.
to
It's
it.
100% what that
I was
sounded like.
enjoying it a lot.
right.
I just kind of stopped reading a lot of comics for a couple of months during this whole year because
Sure,
everything
yeah.
going on. But yeah, Jerry the horse. That thing was fun.
Good old Jared.
I haven't seen the book. I didn't know if it was still coming out.
Yeah.
It's just like I could. Dan,
And now we're going into an Amazon war.
Dan was talking about
Trial.
Batman and Robin, which is an incredible book. 3 issues.
Robin and Batman.
The reason
Oh,
I
yes,
hadn't
Robin
read
and
it until this morning is every time I looked up Batman and Robin, you get Grant Morrison's Batman and Robin for 2011.
Right, yes, it's called Robin and Batman.
Yeah, Robin and Batman.
It's 3 issues. It ended.
It was great. I
Yeah,
loved
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I made him read it for a short.
Oh, okay.
I did shorts for everything else,
Okay.
but I read the book. Anyway, Dan, as a new reader who came in right around New 52, you came in right after that.
It was right after, because, I was not... I basically was given, hey, Dan, here's comics. It's New 52.
Yeah.
That's-
You got the manga treatment where you were like, I think The Flash is cool. And I'm like, here's 2 books.
Yeah.
Go read them.
No, I liked
that'll
it. That being said, since I have not been around for some of the major crises,
Worst part is you thought you were.
there have been multiple events that have happened that I kind of thought were crisis-like, such
Well, like
as
Convergence was crisis-like.
Like a lot of them
Yeah.
feel like they were like, hey,
multiversal things.
let's change it. No, never mind. We're
Yeah.
going to do this.
That's kind of
instead.
what
And
it's kind of the problem has been recently because a true crisis does have you feel a fresh restart
and it's got
afterwards.
crisis in the name.
That's true.
Not always, but yes.
Most of the time.
Death metal crisis.
Crisis of the Death Metals.
Honestly, death metal.
That was the closest to a true crisis, I feel.
I think when they went to the source wall and they broke it open, they should have just rebooted by showing a new DC universe on the other side.
the other side.
Like that would have been a great reboot, and you can keep this current universe.
just goes, hey, it's like the same thing, but better. Because it's not confusing.
Wasn't that the plot of one of those? Like, you guys are all dark and
so.
edgy and terrible, and that was like Superboy Prime's
Oh, wait,
thing,
I
right?
guess
Like,
that's Dark
Well, yeah, that
Multiverse.
was Superboy's Prime thing, yeah, where everything got dark and edgy, and he was like, and it's ruined.
you ruined everything.
I will now punch Red Hood back.
He's alive.
Or Jason Todd. Come back, you stupid bastard. You want me to slap around the corpse a little?
I will say, out of all the New 52 things, that was one of the things that at least I did enjoy, where they're like, okay, so Jason Todd came back to life using normal DC means. Can we stop saying he got punched back to life?
No.
They're like,
he
Lazarus
was
Pit,
punched back.
training, all cast. It's all legit now.
Hashtag not my Jason Todd.
Andy Jason Todd got punched back to life.
My Jason Todd got punched back to
The best part about Jason Todd coming back to life out of those retcons is that he came back in Hush, but as he's back? No, he's not.
Right.
And then they retconned that was him.
Right.
But he jumped away when Batman wasn't looking.
Right.
And Clayface showed-
Jump back out. He jump behind a grave. It was like an old school like Pratt type of thing.
The original Hush storyline is that it's not Jason. They were faking it.
Oh,
So
I
that- yeah,
And then
okay.
they were
I
like,
remember that
wait
one, yeah.
a minute.
But no, Jason was there.
Wait a minute.
It just made more sense that it wasn't Jason.
Superboy Prime could have punched him back into existence. Also, let's talk about that where they were like, this is still in the Jason Todd thing, but they were like, we got to bring Jason Todd back. How do we want to do it? Well, we got, in the Batman universe, we got this Lazarus pit that brings people back from the dead.
Which was around back then.
We
I
could
want to
just
stay.
use that. I don't feel like it's comic booky enough.
Doesn't make sense, actually.
What
They've
if-
already
what if-
brought
If,
people
stay
back
with
that.
me.
What if
You remember
Superboy
when
Prime-
Superboy Prime was punching through the
Now,
multiverse?
what I want to know is how that meeting went, where they're like, "Oh, so he's going to revive all the dead guys? That'll be incredible." Just Jason?
Just Jason.
But we have like all these other great dead characters.
No. That would be funny if Superboy Prime's punches brought everyone back from the dead.
That would make more
There's
sense
a Black
than
Lantern
just Jason, right?
Read that.
The Black
Anyway, keep
Lantern was
going, Dan.
interesting too.
Sorry, I didn't mean to rant. It's just comics don't make any damn sense.
They don't, and honestly, I think they do need a hard reboot because they've semi-rebooted it so many times that it's hard to tell what was actually rebooted, what wasn't actually rebooted, what stayed, what went Black Label, what became slightly different timeline where they were off in a different country for a week.
Batman the Detective.
Thank you. Glad we got that. But like there's just too many and it's not clear enough because at least when like DC Rebirth, would that be a crisis?
Nope.
Are we
No,
counting that?
technically not a crisis.
We'll pretend like it is. It was easy because you could say, oh yes, it's the DC Rebirth comic. Like it was the Rebirth comic of this.
Yeah, at least
You
they all
least
said
knew.
Rebirth
Well,
on
so
the
I think
Exactly.
Rebirth was
And
originally
that's-
intended to be a crisis, and I think Doomsday Clock was going to make it just kind of one big.
Rebirth came from they found the button and they were like, someone's been messing with
Yeah.
the timeline.
Yeah.
And then they were like, Dr. Manhattan. No, don't worry about that. All right, let's look over here.
Superman's dead
Well,
father.
The Rebirth.
Yeah, well, that was another thing.
That was a weird-
But what I mean, the
thing in there,
Rebirth
but-
was Rebirth and the button were supposed to lead into Doomsday Clock, which I think initially, before all the shakeups in DC happened, was gonna truly end with this is why it was changed. Here's what's back, and it was gonna be like a soft reboot kind of a thing. Like, but then they had the button. We had Batman's dad. We had all this stuff, and they're like, and Doomsday Clock took too long to come out, so we're just not gonna tie it in anymore.
It's like I said, they keep coming up with these super convoluted ways to try to fix things.
Yeah.
And they just keep messing stuff up more.
Worst part about Doomsday Clock, it was very Bendis-y in the fact that Jeff Johns is like, so all of that's happening? Yeah, I'm going to do my own story, and it's not going to reflect anything you're doing.
And it's also going to introduce plot points that supposedly have been happening for a while that have never been mentioned in comics before. Ever.
That weirdly reminds me of
Taking it
Mr. Oz.
Taking it in and of itself, though, Doomsday Clock was actually pretty good.
That kind of
it
reminds
was
me a little
out.
bit of
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah,
Oz, though, where they were hyping Mr. Oz, hyping Mr. Oz, hyping Mr. Oz, and they're
and
like,
it was
it's
Jor-El.
Jor-El, and here's all the proof. And you're like, that wasn't in the book.
Yes, it was.
Jor-El kidnapped Tim Drake. Why?
And put him in the future.
I want to just say I don't understand the reason why they went through DC Rebirth, DC Universe. I believe was one of them.
That was in the middle.
I thought the whole point of that name change was it meant a new like
No.
reboot or something like
No.
that. So that explains a lot of my confusion. With
It
all
was
of
like a soft reboot. They were like, oh, you can jump on here. But a lot of the
you really
writers,
couldn't,
a lot of the
yeah.
writers ignored that and just kept
Yeah.
going. Like,
Yeah, no. They really do need a reboot, in my opinion.
yeah.
We need a crisis or something. Or as I think I said in the previous episode, we just need like Marvel or DC's version of Marvel Ultimate Universe.
We need a straight up DC coming out being like they're all going to get a new #1 and we're going to start from there. We're not going to like not even a true reboot, but we're not going to reference. It's all going to be brand jumping on points. Because right now is the worst time ever for someone to go, I want to read comics, but I don't know where to start. Because it really just turns into, okay, so we can go back to New 52. You could do Batman No Man's Land. I guess Tom King is another kind of technical reboot. But if you want to read current Batman, well, then you technically would have to read all of Tom King's. But then it kind of reboots
don't.
again at like 75. And you can also skip this chunk of 20 in the middle. So go to the wedding, jump to 75.
Don't do that either. No. If you want to read some solid Batman comics, don't read Tom King. At all. Ever.
But what I'm saying is like because they also didn't
Vision
start
is
with
a
new
better Batman
numbers.
comic than his
They
Batman
didn't
comic.
after
Even
Death
Vision
Metal,
was
they
that.
still didn't do a new number.
No, they didn't. Yeah.
It's still confusing. Because if I go to you, I mean, case in point, we were just talking to a friend about Destiny, and he was like, Dan, to truly understand Destiny, you need to go do all of Destiny.
Destiny 1.
Yeah.
That one I did at least.
But like that's what I kind of feel like comics is right now, where it's like, oh, Andy, you want to get into Batman? Okay, it's 117. You can actually jump on at 118, and then depending on how you feel about it, you're like, yeah, but what's 1 through 117? No, don't worry about that. Just get at 118. You're good.
I mean,
Because
luckily-
118 is like a reboot for Batman. That's the
Yeah,
Joshua
yeah.
Williamson.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, we're going back to the manor. Ghostmaker left. Clown Hunter left. Harley's doing her thing.
You know, I'll give DC credit. At least they're going, hey, yes, it's number 118, where Marvel's like, hey, okay, so it's number 40 or Legacy 832.
Depending on
Sorry,
your
what?
numbering system. I got to do a whole Dewey Decimal System for Marvel.
What I was saying is like I did find 118 hilarious when I jumped into it, and like the first 2 pages is like he left the brownstone, Ghostmaker left, Clown Hunter left, everything James Tynion did left, and now we're back to Batman in the Batcave. Like, all right, here we go.
All right, is everybody caught up? Great. Fantastic.
It was like just 2 pages of like all that's out the window. Here we go.
This is why I'm grumpy during our review show, you know.
Because you have to start thinking about what's actually in comics.
I just like that it was Tom King for like 80 issues, James Tynion for like 27, and we're just like, and we're rebooting again. But Dan,
Well, the real way that they should be rebooting things is they need to have Superboy Prime punch the universe and jump through a portal.
today's podcast is sponsored by HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. It's no wonder that they are America's #1 meal kit when you can get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Are you looking to save money by ordering less takeout this year? Or maybe you just want to learn how to cook and prioritize your wellness? Well, HelloFresh is here to help by offering food that is 72% cheaper than if you were to eat at a restaurant. But it's still the same quality. And you could save on average $65 per month when you order from HelloFresh instead of grocery shopping. HelloFresh offers the flexibility to customize your order online or through the app to easily change your delivery day, food preferences, and plan or even skip a week if you ever need to. Be sure to try my personal favorite meal, the White Cheddar Wonder Burgers. Go to HelloFresh.com/experiment16 and use the code experiment16 to get 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. That is 16 free meals and 3 free gifts by going to HelloFresh.com/experiment16 and use the code experiment16 at checkout.
And the portal has closed.
So anyway,
Different universe.
what
We
about
just got
Marvel?
rebooted.
Do we feel like Marvel needs a true Ultimate Universe style reboot, a fresh beginning?
Yes.
Marvel.
And we call it the MCU.
Okay, Marvel's also in a weird spot right now because, okay, so they're
But if
promoting.
you take the MCU, it's a solid continuity, right? It's like 20, whatever, 3,
Totally.
4 films
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah.
And we're about to mess it
Solid
all up with
continuity.
multiverse.
There's not a lot of weird. I mean, there's some bumps here and there. There's a lot of movies and different directors and writers. I get it, but you know, in terms of continuity, the MCU is pretty solid.
Pretty solid, yeah.
So over in the Marvel's got 2 weird issues going on right now. One is Spider-Man. Nick Spencer lost a lot of readers, so they're
Viewers?
like, yeah.
Well, there's your problem. You can't watch a comic book unless you watch our channel.
I don't want to view this anymore.
But they're already promoting Ben Reilly's time is over. They just started Spider-Man Beyond, but you could tell
Is that Nick Spencer?
No. So Zeb Wells.
Okay,
and,
I was gonna say because you said Nick Spencer.
Well, so Nick
lost a lot of
Spencer,
people.
they
Yeah,
rebooted Nick Spencer's run with Ben Reilly.
Spider-Man Beyond.
Right. But you can tell it's not doing nearly as well as they thought because I just got all the solicits and the plans. April, Amazing Spider-Man, new #1. Peter Parker's back, and we're just doing.
Everybody calm the down. I beeped myself
I
that
like
time.
it. Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
But yeah, so they're bringing back Peter Parker already with a brand new #1.
Well, I mean, you knew he was gonna come back.
Yeah.
right, but like I thought
That's
Spider-Man
like
Beyond
when
would
Ben
go-
Reilly originally took over in the 90s. Like, if you thought Ben Reilly was going to do Spider-Man forever, you're an idiot. I don't know what else to say.
But
Or like when Azrael took over as Batman.
yeah, that one even made
Yeah,
more
like-
sense because it was
yeah,
like this murderous Batman.
He's going to come back. That's just how it works. I'll tell you what, John ain't going to be Superman forever either. Sorry if you're a John fan. Clark's coming back.
Maybe that'll be the reboot we
Oh
need.
yeah, just to add to the continuity problems before, I love that they've aged up John and they've had him out as bi. Like this is John now.
Yeah.
But they're like, but people still like young John. But now that we've done this with John, we can't go back on that. So we're just going to do Super Sons over here, and John is Superman over here.
Yeah.
And we're not going to explain how this works.
That's problem.
But we're going to also have moments with John and Damian where you're like, well, so he's still kind of a little kid with the way that they act with each other, which I did love that scene. I know which one you're talking about.
No, not that.
Did you not like that part?
No, that issue where John and Damian talk.
Yeah.
That is one of the biggest mess ups in DC. That wasn't Damian. The artist drew Tim, and it got all the way to publication.
I'm sorry, what?
The artist drew Tim. It got all the way to publication before somebody caught it. That's why Damian looks weird in that issue and slightly aged up.
Does
it was
look weird.
Tim. And they had to change it last second.
Oh my gosh, that explains the look. I liked the moment. The moment was great.
Tom Taylor says that the artist drew Tim, but the writing was for Damien because he wrote it. So
Yeah,
he's
I
saying
mean-
that it was all the writing was on point.
Yeah.
But Bleeding Cool
That's-
broke the story. The original solicits, it was Tim. The artist drew the wrong Robin.
I mean, there's so many of them at this point.
Funny.
All right, we need to put Robin in this issue. Which one?
This kind of
what
goes
happened.
into what we were saying earlier.
But what I love is apparently it got all the way to
That is pretty bad.
it got published.
You got to
and-
figure somebody's supposed to be proofreading these things.
well, that just tells you
trust
DC's in a
me,
weird
with the
spot right
number
now.
of
Yeah.
Spelling
That
errors
is
I
true,
find
yeah.
in comics.
Yeah.
So anyway, over on the Marvel side, but then the other thing is Hickman has apparently come out, and this is all hearsay. I've not actually seen this interview.
Sorry.
No,
his
he was
wife
on an
react to
interview apparently talking about his time with Marvel. This is all hearsay. Like I said, I was told this, but apparently in the interview he says there's two reasons he left. Well, there's one main reason, but the main reason
He's
is
like, I didn't know what to do with Krakoa.
he was trying to do
I
other.
get this far.
He was getting kickback from a lot of the writers.
Okay.
They wouldn't do what he wanted them to do. They would do their own thing.
Bastards.
So like the Moira McTaggart story, he wanted a comic to explain her stuff,
Right.
and the writer he wanted didn't want to do it. He wanted to do his own thing.
Okay.
So that was his first issue. The
Why
second
didn't
issue
he
is
write it? Didn't it, like Hickman like a comic book writer?
I don't.
And then like his thing.
But apparently, and like I said, it's all hearsay.
Sure, yeah.
The second thing is every idea he had, Marvel didn't let him do. Like they wouldn't let him actually do his plans. Once he got them on Krakoa, Marvel wouldn't approve anything.
Which is hilarious because the whole thing behind Hickman getting X-Men was everyone going, Hickman gets to do whatever he wants. They're
Right.
giving full creative
And
freedom.
apparently,
have a
once
Krakoa
again,
war, like
hearsay
Secret
from
Wars.
a friend telling me that they heard this on the interview with him, so all might be incorrect. But apparently, yeah, after the first year, Marvel just stopped giving him carte blanche to do what he wanted with the X-Men.
This is how I actually imagine this going, was Marvel being like, all right, you get to do this. We're going to go do our own thing. All right, so Hickman, he made two islands do what? All right, we're coming. Okay, we're putting this down. All right, Hickman, slow down. Slow your
Yeah,
roll.
apparently he moved them all to
Stop having the
Krakoa,
islands
and
bang.
he wanted to kill certain X-Men and like change things around and keep moving it forward, and they just didn't want him to. The X-Men finally got to change the status quo, and in standard Marvel, they're like, whoa.
Let's keep it here for like 20 years.
Yeah, we could do this for like 20 years, right? They have an island.
And once again, the rest of the Marvel universe doesn't need to acknowledge them unless we need them
Right.
to.
I have a weird feeling that was all a part of that. But like I said, all hearsay from a friend.
All
who-
right, that's
through
how
an
they bring
interview.
him into the MCU. Turns out mutants were on a big island. For
That
the
is having
last
sex with
10
other
years,
islands?
and nobody noticed.
They only found out when this island they knew about started having sex with an unknown island. And all of a sudden, laser beams got shot around.
Why are those islands bumping into each other? What's going on?
But anyway, yeah. So X-Men and Spider-Man, it's Marvel's in a weird spot themselves right now because we have Spider-Man is going through another status quo change in April. X-Men is now just permanently on an island, and half of them are pirates.
And their own
To be
planet.
fair, the pirate half are really great.
Yeah, that's actually true. The pirate half I love.
And the Mars half also really cool. So it's like a three-way.
And then we got the Avengers, where Jason Aaron's just like, I'm just gonna keep doing whatever I want. till someone
They're gonna have a
Oh my
tournament.
God.
They're gonna have a Phoenix tournament. Is it gonna
and
be,
Phoenix is Thor's mom.
Is it gonna be good?
Define good.
It's not really gonna serve any purpose.
I
but
just read through the Thor stuff, and I just read the part where Thor's mom, Freya
it's actually
Yeah,
like,
which mom?
well, explains to him like, I'm your mom. I'm the one that raised you, and that kind of stuff.
But his real mom.
Right. I'm just picturing Donny Cates writing that issue like, Aaron did what? Fine.
Son of a bitch.
Fine, but I'm still. She's gonna be the real mom.
How
but
did he bang the fire thing? Donny Cates was yelling this.
explain it to me, Aaron.
Seriously.
I was surprised we didn't get like the mom equivalent of the Yondu scene in Guardians.
She made it again. She ain't your mama, boy. Wait, why does Freya sound like that all of a sudden?
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
That would be funny,
I was expecting like a little line like
That would have been
that.
funny. Yeah, I would have laughed.
But yeah, no, I'm just picturing the way that happens. I mean, but at the same time, we just had a reboot for Hulk. Now he's a spaceship.
Oh my God, we're not even.
I like Donny Cates' writing, generally speaking. His Hulk is crap.
I hope it
So
goes
far, my
somewhere,
problem with
maybe.
the Hulk right now is the idea that there's an evil Banner manipulating the Hulk was done 6 years ago.
And also, well, no.
And it was good then.
Not only is Evil Banner manipulating the Hulk, but he's driving him like a spaceship.
Literally.
Because it's Spaceship Hulk. And now we
He's
got
sitting
it.
on a bridge looking through his eyeballs.
And now we've got a good Banner who's trying to stop evil Banner.
On the upside, Donny Cates' Thor run is pretty solid.
What blows my mind about Spaceship Hulk?
It's solid.
He's coming out of Immortal Hulk. They didn't
Right.
even give it breather. It went ending to new issue.
I really honestly feel like once they end an arc, this isn't really to do with the reboot thing anymore,
Yeah.
but once they end an arc, they need to give it a minute.
Yes.
Like Immortal Hulk ends, don't have Hulk for 6 months. Like you could show up and
Or
other
just
stuff.
just have
don't
like
give him a book
Or an out of continuity book.
or an out of continuity.
Yeah, it's like something like that.
Talent cleanser.
Because we literally went from he's immortal to now he's a spaceship.
It was like in the span of less than a month.
yeah.
It was like 3 weeks later that the Donny Cates issue came out.
Donny Cates' thing got like promoted heavily before the finale to Immortal Hulk came out, to the point that people weren't aware that the finale of Immortal Hulk came out.
Right. There was a few people I said it ended and it was pretty good, and the response was, "Oh, did it? I have to read that." This is like months after the
So
fact.
it's like, all right, so it's gonna end. We're gonna have the multiple versions of the Hulk in the place below, or whatever the hell they call it, right?
I think
You
it was
got
place
Green
below, yeah.
Hulk, Red Hulk, that other chick.
Child Hulk.
Yeah. And
Harpy.
they're all gonna see an awful the leader, right? He's all twisted and monstery, and then the Hulk is gonna yell at God, and then after that, Bruce is gonna pilot him like a spaceship.
Are we gonna explain what happened? Yeah. Donny Cates has a one-off line.
Wait, is Banner even in the end of Immortal Hulk? No.
Wasn't Banner removed in the last 15 issues of Immortal Hulk?
Pretty much. At the end of Immortal Hulk, it is like, I think it's Banner, and he just kind of like walks away, does the sad Hulk music.
Yeah.
It's kind of the thing. He's like, well, now it's my time to shine, or something like that. And apparently his time to shine was piloting the Hulk like a spaceship.
Oh, Sal told me that apparently people were like, critiquing Donny Cates' work, and I guess he freaked out on Twitter about it. So
The thing is, I'm a big fan of Donny Cates.
Yeah,
His
same here.
Null, Venom, fantastic. Thor, great. His Hulk spaceship thing, not my cup of tea.
well, the biggest problem with Spaceship Hulk is that it's a follow-up to Immortal Hulk, which was critically reviewed, tons
Immortal
of
Hulk
awards.
seems more like a Donny Cates run, actually, if you think about it.
But what I'm saying
He
is,
generally
In
goes
a
with
way.
like the epic, dark,
Yeah.
there's gods.
it'd be Donny
does,
Cates is following up. It's almost like if the Beatles came out and played a song, and after that they're like, "All right, Dan, you ready?"
I got my spoons.
Like that's what I mean, though. Like he's following after a critically reviewed and awarded series.
Tonight's show will be the Beatles, followed by Smash Mouth. And all they play is that one song from Shrek. I don't even know the name of it.
You're an all-star.
All Star, thank you.
I got
Yeah.
you.
I'm just like that. It was and to do it like 3 weeks after the other one ended.
Yeah,
Like, don't
no,
even
it
let
was
us
a
get a
good
little
idea.
breather.
Anyway, Marvel needs to reboot too.
Yeah.
But yeah, Marvel's got all these weird situations going on where they removed the crossovers are the only time they all come together right now.
I will actually give Marvel credit there. Marvel has reached the point that their stories are so disconnected that a lot of the time you don't need a full continuity. Like until it's a crossover.
They do
or
a good
anything
job
like
about that. Yeah.
Certain aspects of Marvel, I think, are still solid.
Yeah.
The Daredevil stuff is great.
Devil's Reign.
Right into Devil's Reign is really good so
Okay,
far.
I haven't read all the tie-ins. Maybe one of you can inform me. Do any of them matter?
No, not so far.
necessarily.
Okay,
no.
cool. So it's what I thought.
It's often
Electra's
the
good,
time-
but it's not technically a tie-in.
I'm actually excited for Daredevil Woman Without Fear.
Yeah, it came out. The first issue
Yeah,
came out
I-
yesterday. It was solid.
Make it short about it. And send it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same problem as DC. There's just too much going on.
Yeah.
And whereas Marvel doesn't do their crisis and then a soft reboot, they just do the time sliding thing, which makes it even worse because it's like, all right, all this happened in a week. Wait, what? Yeah. Okay, now we got Peter. We're back here. Okay. All right, now the X-Men. Island. But all this stuff already happened. Just so we're clear. Professor Xavier did die. But it was in this period.
And Scott did kill him.
And then we got all this again. Yeah, it's just they do that all the time too.
The Inhumans are in there
I
somewhere.
really feel both companies should do just do an alternate universe again and do like a reboot universe. Keep your books. Keep your books. I don't give a shit. If you want to keep your 70-something years of continuity, do it. Go for it. And there are people who love it. So you can't even argue
in
that
Marvel,
point.
I don't know why Life Story hasn't become
Life Story is fantastic.
Life Story proves that if Marvel just cleans it up and puts it in one path, slow it down, don't make it an entire decade per book, and make Life Story the new Ultimate Universe.
I was gonna say if they did like a Life Story Ultimate Universe kind of thing, that would be really good. Because Spider-Man Life Story was fantastic. The Fantastic Four is really good, and I'm not even a Fantastic Four fan.
I don't like them.
And I'm enjoying it.
This
Why do you sound so sleepy?
I don't like them. Benny nap now.
Yeah, just
Did you use code comics at checkout? To
Banner's
get some G
off
Fuel?
the seat. Spaceship Benny's going to bed.
Banner's like putting it in autopilot.
Oh no, the monitor went to sleep. I forgot to move the mouse.
Spaceship Benny going down now.
Crash landing. And then I think they should do a lot more of the life stories. I think the life stories are fantastic, and I think that would be a good way to do the universe and let time flow normally.
Like when they first pitched Black Label, I was excited because that was going to be not true reboots, but I wouldn't have to worry about all the other
Yeah,
books.
you could just tell stories, and then it just turned into the Bat label,
the Bat Label.
or the Joker label books for a little while there.
I'm wondering if it's just going to change its label eventually, like Black Label, Bat Label.
Just slowly adjust.
The black label will become bat shaped, and it'll the L slowly fade away.
Does that say back label? What's it going for?
Because like I said, they just keep both universes. They just keep trying to do these like fixes, which just make things worse.
Yeah,
honestly.
You know, I think that might also be why we enjoy the random news stories in Marvel about in continuity but new heroes, or not new heroes, but like Moon Knight, for example, where because
you don't have to worry about everybody
exactly,
else.
you don't have to worry
Yeah.
about all that. You know the status quo of the universe, but you don't have to worry about it. You just go, cool, I know the scenarios.
I still loved the Moon Knight thing
did.
where they kicked it off, and he's like, "Yeah, Khonshu took over the world. We're kind of on bad terms, but I'm still a priest of."
Yeah, exactly.
He took down all of the Avengers and then was like, I'm just gonna become Batman again.
I'm apparently the strongest in the Marvel universe at this point through power
easier.
scaling rules. But
So me and Khonshu are on the outs until
but
like
not
issues
really.
3 when I
Kinda,
talk to him.
you bet Khonshu.
Also, during that whole time, there was another fist that just kind of relaxed.
Well, I mean, you get 2. Most people.
He was like, the
Most
other
people.
he's already taken over the world. They don't need me.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Comics Experiment. I'm pretty sure we're all in the consensus that I think a soft reboot would be good for both lines at the moment.
do.
Or an
Hard
alternate
reboot.
universe, or hard reboot.
I honestly, I think hard reboot.
I
Just
think
straight
that
up
would
do
be
it.
hard
great. Yeah.
reboot and commit.
Yeah,
Yes.
well,
Don't give me
That's
2
key.
years from now. Don't give me Dr. Manhattan went over to Marvel. I started messing around with
Now,
stuff.
we would get a.
he moved the
and-
lantern by an inch.
Which is weird. We're in Marvel. Nobody owns a lantern.
But yes,
he
don't forget
combines
today's
the
episode
universes.
is what?
Dr. Manhattan combines the universes.
Amalgam.
He goes,
Do you want us to do amalgam on the channel?
Threw it
Andy wants to
into
write the
Marvel.
amalgam stories. You guys want us to do amalgam on the channel? Andy, you down? We're doing
Sure,
amalgam. Yeah.
I own them all. So you can't buy them on Comicsology.
No, Dan will find some weird site to get them off
I
of.
own them all. They're fine. You can just take pictures off of my physical comics. Perfect.
That'd be hilarious. Anyway, guys, today's
It's
episode
actually
is
you holding it, going, it's this panel.
this episode is brought to you by
Hello Fresh.
HelloFresh. I'll say that without laughing.
It's brought to you by HelloFresh. Go to HelloFresh.com/experiment16. Use code experiment16 at checkout. Get 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. Patreon.com/Comicstorian. Twitch.tv/Comicstorian. G Fuel. Use code comics at checkout. Our other YouTube channel, Dungeons and Ale.
And I wanted to mention those a little more tightly. Dungeons and Nails, a channel where us and one other friend, and we'll eventually have more friends, get together and do Dungeons and Dragons modules. We create our own. We've completed a Red Hood Arsenal saga. We have now officially ended our anime-inspired one. Last episode will go live next week.
That was fun.
The way he said it, right?
I do great.
That was fun.
I had a good time. I had the good time.
It's great. It's nice.
And we are going to be starting up a new fantasy campaign, and we just started Spider-Verse. So if you want to see their versions of Spider-Man,
Spider-Verse.
go and check out Dungeons and Nail. And also, please consider going to our
Non-copyright
Absolutely
Spider-Verse.
Marvel and DC channel, where Dan and I sit down with Sal and Dylan and basically review and discuss and go over all the rumors, all the shows, everything coming out in the world of superheroes that we already watch anyway. And you can also find us on Snapchat at Comicstorian
Yeah.
and TikTok at Comicstorian.
Indeed.
Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome.
What would I do without my hype man?
I don't know. You wouldn't be as hyped, that's for sure.
Do it. And on that note, I was going to do a joke, but I realized that part wasn't filmed, so now it's just a weird, awkward joke that's a punchline to nothing. So we'll just see you next time.